Right now on Brookland News Live, the new details on the war in Iran as the blockade continues on the Strait of Hormuz by the United States. And the news we are just getting in from President Donald Trump announcing that Israel and Lebanon have reached a ceasefire. We will bring you that. Plus, within the last few moments, a press conference from the 4 astronauts that were aboard Artemis 2 following their landing. We're going to take you there in just moments. You are watching Brookland News Live. Our coverage starts right now.
Brookland News Live starts right now with breaking news.
Good day, good to be with you on a busy day of news. I'm Jackson Mitchell. It's Thursday, April 16th, 2:02 here in Brooklyn, 12:02 on the West Coast, and 3:02 on the East. We're starting with the latest developments here that we were just getting in. President Trump taking to Truth Social to announce just moments ago that Israel and Lebanon have reached a ceasefire. This is the new details coming into us. Again, just moments ago, I want to bring you that Truth Social post where President Donald Trump here, and I'll read it in its entirety. He responds to a post, but we're going to read the bottom post here first. He says, quote, I just had excellent conversations with the highly respected President Joseph Aoun of Lebanon and Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu of Israel. These two leaders have agreed that in order to achieve peace between their countries, they will formally begin a 10-day ceasefire at 5 p.m. Eastern, so that is 4 p.m. today. Now, on Tuesday, the two countries met for the first time in 34 years here in Washington, D.C., with our great Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I have directed Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, together with the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Raisin Kane, to work with Israel and Lebanon to achieve a lasting peace. It has been my honor to solve 9 wars across the world, and this will be my 10th, so let's get it done. President Donald J. Trump. He then would later respond to that post an hour after saying, quote, in addition to the statement just issued, I will be inviting Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, and the President of Lebanon, Joseph Aoun, to the White House for the first meaningful talks between Israel and Lebanon since 1983, a very long time ago. Both sides want to see peace, and I believe that will happen quickly. President Donald J. Trump. So that is the Truth Social post from the president. One moment here. Sorry, we're doing the news as it happens here. So it's, again, this news just coming into us. Hezbollah, which we brought to you, kind of all these new details. Hezbollah, which is the militant group that has been, obviously operates in Lebanon, is now has not reacted to this news from President Donald Trump. So, again, this is just coming into us a few moments ago. Now, to note, since about 1978, these countries, 1977, these countries have been at war. So we'll take you to our live shot there in Beirut, Lebanon. But again, these countries have been at war since really the founding of Israel. So to hear about this is some good news for peace between these two countries. Now, it will be a 10-day ceasefire, and it will go begin here at 4 p.m. today. Now, as reported earlier, Marco Rubio, he's leading those conversations. He has been doing this, and he actually spoke on Tuesday when the first round of conversations began. So I want to play that for you. This is Marco Rubio on Tuesday.
We understand we're working against decades of history and complexities that have led us to this unique moment. And the opportunity here, I know some of you are shouting questions about ceasefires. This is a lot more than just about that. This is about bringing a permanent end to 20 or 30 years of Hezbollah's influence in this part of the world, and not just the damage it's inflicted on Israel, the damage it's inflicted on the Lebanese people. That is the hope here today. That is what we are beginning to work. We are joined by excellent people who will be in a position to obviously take this back to the respective capitals. This is a process, not an event. This is more than just one day. This will take time, but we believe it is worth this endeavor, and it's a historic gathering that we hope to build on. And the hope today is that we can outline the framework upon which a permanent and lasting peace can be developed, so that, as I said, the people of Israel can live in peace, and the people of Lebanon can live not just in peace, but the prosperity and security that they deserve.
Marco Rubio there, continuing our live shot there in Beirut, Lebanon. Now, these countries, they have had previous ceasefires, and that has been something that has come to light. There was a 2024 agreement back in November. Now, according to reporting from the United Nations, they flagged thousands of violations within those ceasefire agreements. The most recent one that kind of did come apart was a 2006 Lebanon war ceasefire, a previous major ceasefire was implemented, calling for the disarmament of armed groups, and respect for territorial integrity. So we're also getting remarks from the Israeli ambassador to the United States here. He was speaking as well on Tuesday on where things stood. Here, let's take a listen to his remarks.
Talks began with a statement, very encouraging statement, Secretary of State Rubio. I was honored to sit around a negotiating table with His Excellency Michelle Issa, United States Ambassador to Lebanon, and to Her Excellency Nada Hamadi, the Lebanese Ambassador to Washington. We discovered today that we're on the same side of the equation, and that's the most positive thing we could have come away with. We are both united in liberating Lebanon from an occupation power dominated by Iran called Hezbollah. Lebanon is under their occupation, and we are suffering from their constant barrages of missiles and terror attacks trying to cross our border. We talked about a number of things, and most importantly, the vision, the long-term vision, where there'll be a clearly delineated border between our countries, and where the only reason we'll need to cross each other's territory will be in business suits to conduct business or in bathing suits to go on vacation. We made it very clear that the security of our civilians is not up for negotiation.
So there you go, the Israeli ambassador to the United States speaking to the press. Let's take you back to our live shot in Beirut, Lebanon. So again, a ceasefire just now reached about 2 hours ago in a Truth Social post by President Trump. That's the way it was announced. President Trump, before he departed to Vegas, as he's expected to make remarks later tonight on no tax on tips, did speak to the press. Want to play some of that video for you. He spoke for about 30 minutes or so. We're only going to play just a couple minutes of that and his reaction on this ceasefire reach. Take a listen here.
Mr. President, you spoke with Prime Minister Modi just a couple of days ago. What was the conversation like? What is it that is on the table now?
I had a very good talk with him, and he's a friend of mine from India, and he's doing great. We had a very good conversation.
Considering extending the ceasefire with Iran?
With who?
With Iran.
We're doing very well, I can tell you. Maybe it'll happen before that. I'm not sure it needs to be extended. Just so you know, Iran wants to make a deal, and we're dealing very nicely with them. We've got to have no nuclear weapons. If we do, that's a big factor. And they're willing to do things today that they weren't willing to do 2 months ago.
Do you have any news about Ukraine? Do you have any news regarding peace in Ukraine?
Hezbollah stick to the ceasefire. Are you confident about that?
I think they will. I think it's going to be, actually it's very exciting because it's 48 years. We're going to be meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, as you know, and the president of Lebanon. And I had a great talk with both of them today. They're going to be having a ceasefire, and that'll include Hezbollah. And I think it could be number 10 for me.
Mr. President, do you have any news regarding peace in Ukraine? Do you have any news regarding peace in Ukraine?
Ukraine is moving along. I wish they could get along, frankly. A lot of people are dying in Ukraine. We'll see what happens. There's things happening there. We're focused so much right now in Iran, seeing if we can get that completed. And I think we're going to be able to. And I think if you look, the stock market is good. The oil prices are coming down, and it's looking very good that we're going to make a deal with Iran, and it's going to be a good deal. It's going to be a deal with no nuclear weapons.
When is the next in-person round of negotiations on the war in Iran? When will
They're
that
all
take place?
important. I mean, it's not a question of around. All of them are
When will
important.
the next in-person
Probably,
meeting take
maybe
place?
over the weekend.
Mr. President, will you send the Vice President? Mr. President, will you send the Vice
Just so you
President?
understand, the blockade has been incredible. It's held. They're not doing any business. They're unable to do any business because of the blockade. And so the combination of having no Navy, having no Air Force, having no anti-aircraft equipment, they have nothing. Everything is gone, including their leaders. Now they have a new set of leaders, and we find them very reasonable.
And Mr. President, on the 20-year minimum to stop enriching uranium, would you?
Well,
would
we
that be
haven't agreed to
acceptable
any.
you?
We haven't
Would that be
agreed to any.
acceptable to you, sir, if that's the final sticking point?
What
Would you
we
be
have is
comfortable with
we have a statement, very powerful statement, that they will not have beyond 20 years, that they will not have nuclear weapons. That's beyond. There's no 20-year limit.
Before you General, anyone interested, could you please give us more information on if they'll go against the weaponization?
I think that Todd Blanche is doing a very good job, from what I'm seeing. All I can say thus far, I think Todd Blanche is doing a very good job.
President, if there's no deal, would you be willing to extend the ceasefire, or will the fighting resume, Mr. President?
I would say the fighting. If there's no deal, fighting resume.
Okay. And then on gas prices, how much longer will Americans continue to see these high gas prices?
Well, they're not very high. If you look at what they were supposed to be in order to get rid of a nuclear weapon, with the danger that entails. So the gas prices have come down very much over the last 3-4 days. I know, that's what ABC says. But the fact is that if you look at the stock market's up, everything's doing really well. And the big thing we have to do is we have to make sure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, because if they do, you want to talk about problems, you'd have problems. So very important is that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, and they've agreed to that. Iran's agreed to that, and they've agreed to it very powerfully. They've agreed to give us back the nuclear dust that's way underground because of the attack we made with the B-2 bombers. So we have a lot of agreement with Iran, and I think something's going to happen very positive. Very complicated subject. I don't think we're waiting. I think we're moving very fast. It could happen pretty quickly.
Moments ago there, President Donald Trump taking questions before he headed to Vegas. Okay, so again, a ceasefire just moments ago, according to the president, reached between Israel and Lebanon that will go into effect today at 3 p.m. So at the end of our show, it will go into effect. Okay, big story we're following from the White House. We are continuing to track, of course, the story out of the Strait of Hormuz. Look there at the Strait of Hormuz today, as we are getting in a press conference this morning from Secretary of Defense or War Pete Hegseth, as the blockade is continuing as it approaches its first week. This morning, that press conference held, providing an update on where things stand by Secretary of War or Defense Pete Hegseth, as we are now learning 13 boats have been turned around in the strait attempting to enter Iranian ports. Pete Hegseth this morning. Take a listen.
Are locked and loaded on your critical dual-use infrastructure, on your remaining power generation, and on your energy industry. We'd rather not have to do it, but we're ready to go at the command of our president and at the push of a button. This blockade, which the chairman will detail this morning, is the polite way that this can go. Your energy is not moving and will not move, and we can do this all day. But it's not destroyed yet. Your energy industry is not destroyed yet. You like to say publicly, Iran, that you control the Strait of Hormuz, but you don't have a navy or real domain awareness. You can't control.
Yeah, so he says you can't control it because they don't have a navy. Now, you might have been wondering this. How exactly is the U.S. controlling the Strait of Hormuz? This morning, Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Dan Kane broke that down in this press conference. Here's General Dan Kane.
Morning, I'd like to give you an update on the ongoing blockade in the CENTCOM AOR area of responsibility. On Monday, 13 April at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, at the direction of the President, America's Joint Force began implementing a blockade against Iran under the leadership of Admiral Cooper and the team at CENTCOM. Let me be clear, this blockade applies to all ships, regardless of nationality, heading into or from Iranian ports. The U.S. action is a blockade of Iran's ports and coastline, not a blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Enforcement will occur inside Iran's territorial seas and in international waters. In addition to this blockade, the Joint Force, through operations and activities in other areas of responsibility, like the Pacific area of responsibility under the command of Admiral Paparo, will actively pursue any Iranian-flagged vessel or any vessel attempting to provide material support to Iran. This includes dark fleet vessels carrying Iranian oil. As most of you know, dark fleet vessels are those illicit or illegal ships evading international regulations, sanctions, or insurance requirements. More than 10,000 sailors, Marines, and airmen, over a dozen ships and dozens of aircraft are executing this mission. And let me walk you through this operation a little bit. Please go to the first slide. First to the graphic. This is taken before the blockade began. North is up. You can see the blockade line here in the center of the graphic, denoted by the red dashed line. This map is a pull from our common operating picture that we use to allow commanders and key leaders to see what is happening in near real time. We just grabbed screen grabs to highlight the actions and activities.
General Dan Kane there. We'll keep that image up on the screen for just a moment so you're able to see kind of where things stand here and where the U.S. has it lined. You'll see where it says blockade line and then those lines which are Iranian ports and then the boats which we're now learning about 13 of those have been told they could not enter. Now, the ceasefire that Iran and Israel and the United States all have is expected to come to an end on Tuesday. We'll have to watch how this all plays out here because as we brought to you here before, I believe on Tuesday's edition of Brookland News Live, there is reporting out there that that Iran wants a second round of talks, and you even heard that just a few moments ago with President Donald Trump, specifically saying that Iran really wants a deal really bad, and that has been the message from the White House and President Donald Trump throughout this entire war. Caroline Leavitt yesterday responding to the reporting on a second round of talks. Take a listen here.
Reporting about the potentiality for in-person discussions again. Those discussions are being had, but nothing is official until you hear it from us here at the White House. But we feel good about the prospects of a deal. The president mentioned that in his interview yesterday, and it's obviously in the best interest of Iran to meet the president's demands. I think he's made his red lines in these negotiations very clear to the other side, and so we are continuing to see how these conversations go.
Yeah, so you heard it there from the White House, Caroline Leavitt, saying it's not official until you hear it from the White House, but did say that there were talks ongoing for a second round of conversations to begin to continue a ceasefire and possibly bring this war to an end between Iran. Now, I want to take you to gas prices where things stand. Oil prices still high. Brent crude oil around $95, $96 per barrel. And then you got the WTI, around 91. The lowest looks like $82. Now, prices have risen for plus percent here in the past year. And then recently, of course, within a few weeks, due to the conflict in the Middle East, including the blockade, which has caused a major supply shock, though prices have dropped from their earlier peak at $119. That was at the beginning of this Iran conflict. So back February 28th, the last day of February, it was a Saturday. Right now, as we take a look there at average fuel prices, they are down about 9 cents from yesterday. This is according to AAA. Looking at about $4, close to even here today. $3.64 in Arkansas, Jonesboro. $3.73 is that price right now. So on a downward trend, and that is something the White House kind of has predicted and has said that they are going to remain on a downward trend. We'll see if they rise again depending on what things look like on Tuesday when that ceasefire comes to an end. So we'll be following the White House and bring you what they have to say if there is any type of second round of conversation expected to begin. We're going to seek in our first break of the hour. Stick with this here. When we come back, an Arkansas panel rejects a Sharia law bill on property. So we're going to bring you that. And then, excuse me here, I'm having some issues with my mouse. There we go. We can take the lower third down. We're going to bring you that. Any update on the Israel-Lebanon conversation that we get throughout the hour that we're here with you, we'll bring you that. Then we've also got a court ruling, Live Nation, Ticketmaster, that they were operating at a monopoly. I want to just preview a few of the stories we're going to talk about. And then we're also just getting into new reporting on the search for Nancy Guthrie. That is all coming up on this Thursday edition of Brookland News Live. We're back here in just a few moments. And you probably can't believe this, where you have more breaking news this hour. ABC releasing a report moments ago saying the FBI is now analyzing more DNA from Guthrie's home. This reporting again coming in from ABC News. Here's the article saying the FBI is now analyzing DNA recovered from her home. The story goes on to say a private Florida lab that works with the Pima County Sheriff's Department sent the sample to the FBI in recent days. The sources said the FBI is now using new technology to conduct advanced analysis on the DNA sample to see if it can lead to Nancy Guthrie's kidnapper, according to the sources. Now, the Pima County Sheriff's Department has previously described the DNA recovered from Nancy Guthrie's home as a sample that came from more than one person here. Now, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos recently told a neighborhood watch group that it could take 6 more months to untangle the sample separate the strands and isolate what investigators need. So again, some brand new kind of pretty big reporting, I would say, coming from ABC News on DNA found at Nancy Guther's home that the FBI is now looking into. Okay, now to a big story here in Arkansas. Let's take you there right now. An Arkansas House Committee rejected House Resolution 1016, which was proposed by Representative Marcus Richmond, which would have created, quote, the Arkansas Property Rights Protection from Sharia Law Act. Now, the bill aimed to prevent deceptive real estate practices by requiring buyers to be clearly informed they are purchasing interest in entities, not direct property ownership, and to ensure all legal disputes are handled in state or federal courts, not religious tribunals. Lawmakers from both parties, they opposed the measure, saying it was unclear and could unintentionally impact property owners, associations, religious groups, and hunting clubs, and was largely redundant since the 2017 law already bans court decisions based on foreign legal systems like Sharia law. The proposal was partly inspired by online discussion about a possible Muslim community development in Little Rock, though details about that project remain unclear and similar past efforts never fully materialized. Now, because the bill failed in committee, it will not move forward to a full and entire House vote. So that is a story out of Arkansas. There is something to watch and monitor if there is any new updates from Representative Marcus Richmond, the state representative, of course. We are also getting a court ruling late yesterday on Live Nation and Ticketmaster. A jury in New York federal court found Live Nation and Ticketmaster operated as an illegal monopolies, stifling competition and overcharging fans about $1.72 per ticket. Now, the case brought by the Justice Department in multiple states argued the company controlled much of the live events industry and drove up fees. Now, the judge in this case now has to decide the next steps in a second trial, including possible penalties such as breaking up the company or forcing structural changes. Now, any price relief for consumers is expected to take time, and Live Nation says it plans to appeal here. So now, of course, the jury confirmed that Live Nation and Ticketmaster operated as a monopoly. It validates years of complaints from consumers that have alleged this between the two. Now, if the court orders a breakup, example here, separating Ticketmaster from Live Nation, that could create real competition for the first time in years that would likely lead to lower fees, better service, and more options for buyers. So essentially, if you don't kind of know what a monopoly is, it's saying there's this company that's at the top and there's no that company's not allowing for any competition. Therefore, it has the right to, not has the right, but that it is overcharging because it knows that you're not going to go to these other sites to buy tickets. So if the court chooses lighter remedies like capping fees or forcing them to share tickets with competitors, prices may drop slightly, but that overall system may not change much. So the biggest change you're going to see is if the judge in this case rules that Live Nation and Ticketmaster switch up. So we will watch for that and bring you any updates on that. We're going to sneak in our second break of the hour. When we come back, a look at your forecast as severe storms are expected to impact the region. Coming up soon. We're back in just a few moments. Welcome back here into Brooklyn News Live. A look at that RDOT camera right here in Brooklyn, where it could be rainy pretty soon. Some scattered thunderstorms are expected to hit a large part of the region coming in today. Now we are at a level 1 out of 5 severe weather threat. So there is a possibility of some storms forming up, some hail, etc. There is some storm fuel in the environment, so we'll have to watch and see how that plays out. So we'll keep you up to date on our social media if anything happens on that aspect of things. Taking you to your 3-day forecast tonight, low of 64. Again, we're going to watch for those scattered thunderstorms. I would also like to know that a severe thunderstorm watch has been issued out, I should say, for Craighead County. A low of 64 as we go into tonight, going into Friday. High of 85, low of 66. Cloudy skies. It's going to be a good Friday if you got to get outside, got to do some things. Maybe hot if you want to do some yard work, but if you're driving in your car, just walking, shopping, whatever, it's not too bad. By Saturday, high of 68, low of 43. Another chance of scattered thunderstorms. So we're going to have to watch and see how that begins to all play out on Saturday as well, and we'll likely have an update for you on that storm coming to you tomorrow. So lots to watch, lots to follow on the weather side of things. Again, we will bring you any updates when we get them. Okay, we wanted to leave a little bit of a timeout for you. We wanted to get all your headlines in kind of quick here. We wanted to leave a little bit of time for you because just moments ago, as we were kind of coming out of the air, this was all kind of getting underway. The Artemis II astronauts, which are Commander Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, who served as the pilot, Christina Coach, and Jeremy Hansen, all speaking at the Houston Johnson, I should say the NASA Johnson Space Center. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. I was trying to get my thought out there. So now let's take you to that event that began earlier, the press asking questions, of course, as the science continues after this mission. Let's go. This is just moments ago. Let's take you there and listen in.
Artemis II crew news conference. The Artemis II crew is back on Earth and they are ready to discuss their record-breaking mission with you today. Before we get into the question and answer portion of the event, we will start with some brief opening remarks from Reed. Go ahead.
Thanks, Courtney. Well, that just happened. It's great to sit here and watch your mission go by in a short clip there. What an amazing journey that was. First and foremost, Victor, Christina, Jeremy, just thank you. Like, this was an unbelievable adventure, and it was made possible by this crew and the support of each other throughout the whole thing. And I've said it so many times, but we are bonded forever. I mean, that's the closest 4 humans can be and not be a family. So it was just an amazing adventure, and every single person on that crew lifted each other up the entire time. So I just can't thank the 3 of you enough.
Thank you.
While we're giving thanks, you're welcome. While we're giving thanks, as astronauts, I feel like we're just always thanking the team. We're always thanking the team. So I think today we're just going to start by thanking the world. Let's just thank the world, and let's break that down for 1 minute, and then I'll hand it back to Courtney. But this NASA organization and their international partners, they put together this amazing vehicle, the Orion spacecraft that we named Integrity atop the Space Launch System, riding to the moon on a European service module. They provided this massive structure that was able to push 4 humans around the moon and bring them safely back. So thank you to every single person that had a hand in building that machine, because it was a magnificent machine. But then we would also be remiss if we didn't thank the media, if we didn't thank the content creators, and if we didn't thank the world for just tuning in for a second and getting hooked on this mission. We were certainly hooked on this mission, but when we came home, we were shocked at the global outpouring of support, of pride, of ownership of this mission. And really, I think at the beginning, that's what the 4 of us wanted. We wanted to go out and try to do something that would bring the world together, to unite the world. And then I'll just wrap that all up with the astronaut's creed is always to launch as friends and land as friends. And when you live together in a small group for as long as you do on the space station, or even 10 days, it's a challenge. But I am here to tell the world, we launched as friends and we came back as best friends. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we will begin taking questions. Due to the limited time we have today and the high volume of requests, we ask that media limit themselves to 1 question, please. We'll start here in the room with Will. Go ahead.
Hi, Will Robinson Smith with Spaceflight Now. It's wonderful to see you all again in person this time. Question for Reed, since you brought up the name of your spacecraft and announced it back in September when we last saw you here in person. Integrity, you mentioned, was not only the name of the spacecraft, but the ethos that you wanted to embody throughout the course of the training, the mission, and when you got back here on Earth. So I wonder, having spent 9+ days physically in Integrity, how you found yourself being in Integrity, emotionally and practically, as it was to exercise the spacecraft for the first time. Thank you.
Well, you addressed it to me, so I'll take it. We've talked a lot about integrity, and for folks that have followed us, there's a saying that we learned from one of our National Outdoor Leadership School instructors. Integrity is not a 1 or a 0. You don't either have it or not have it. You can be in integrity and you can be out of integrity. And I will tell you, I'll be the first to admit that there were moments on this mission where I was out of integrity, because sometimes the view or the human experience would just pull me away from the work. And it happens, and it's a beautiful thing to get to witness what we got to witness. But at the end of the day, you got to do the mission too. And so there were moments where I was out of integrity. There was moments where each of us would fall out for a second. But the coolest part of that word I was reflecting on last night, like, we named that spacecraft Integrity, and it just kind of coalesced this thread in the 4 of us. And whenever someone would slip out, it was amazing to watch the other 3 pull them back in. And what a glorious thing. Anybody want to add anything for Integrity? It's just such the perfect name for this group and this spacecraft.
We're going to take a few more questions here in the room and then go over to our phone bridge. Just a reminder for those on the phone bridge to please press *1 when you're ready to enter the queue. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Nick Notario with ABC 13. I want to talk to you all about the magnitude of what you all just did. So to give you some idea, ABC, on the splashdown coverage alone, 10 million people watched our network that day. Just splashdown. That's not the launch, the lunar flyby. And I got to tell you, one of those viewers was my daughter, Ellie, who turned 4 during your mission. And she was mesmerized by what you all were doing. She wasn't talking about her big Bluey birthday party. She wasn't talking about the gifts that she got. Every night I came home from JSC, she said, "Daddy, Ellie, go to space." She was infatuated. When you hear stuff like that, and the amount of people that were interested in what you've done, has the gravity yet hit you about this mission? And, how has it changed you as well?
Great. First, I just want to thank you for sharing that. That is wonderful to hear about your daughter. That's awesome. And thank her for that, creating that story. We landed on Friday. Tomorrow will be 1 week. And I just was trying to live in a little hole for 1 week. Been off social media, not on the news. So no, I don't know. But, my kids have made it pretty clear, my neighbors, and, it's hard to live in a bubble nowadays. I'm trying very hard. But I think it's, what I've come to realize is we did what we said we were going to do. Yep. And now we've got to step out and just face that reality. And so that's a great thing. But I'll figure it out tomorrow. Courtney started this by saying the crew is ready. I'm really not, but I will be next week.
Do you mind if I add something?
Yeah. Please.
It's the way you word it. I mean, I love your question, but you say what you guys did, what the 4 of you did, and we just don't not see it that way. We should be rewording that question to what we did. That's what this was. We just went up and did what we were going to do. All we saw was a camera. We didn't have that connection with you. We lost that connection with Earth by and large. And so we just leaned into what we had. We leaned into each other and mission control, which is really all we had in our families a couple times. But we did that because we had been lifted up and supported to just go up there and be ourselves and just do our job. And we went into it thinking, it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough. Seems like it was good enough.
I'll add a little bit, just my personal perspective. When I got back, as someone who doesn't necessarily like attention, I don't like the birthday song being sung to me, any of that. My husband said that before I got back, he had a conversation with my brothers and sisters, and they were like, "Who's going to tell her?" Because we didn't know. And in fact, what we were told, really through talking with a couple times with our families, was that there was an impact. Not necessarily the number of viewers or anything like that, but that there was a positive impact, that it was superseding any lines, any identities that people had. And When my husband looked me in the eye on that video call and said, "No, really, you've made a difference," it brought tears to my eyes, and I said, "That's all we ever wanted." Yep. And I can tell you that the difference now is when we come before you now, we've done this together. We took your hearts with us, and your hearts lifted our hearts. And now that we've done it, I think it's easier to accept that there's attention on the NASA teams, on the fact that we did it. You know, in the beginning, 3 years ago, we were being celebrated for something that we hadn't done. And having put in the work and having seen our team's successes, I think we're ready to share in that inspiration and to celebrate it.
Okay, we'll take 2 more here in the room and then head to our phone bridge. Kristen, go ahead.
Hi, Kristen Fisher with The Endless Void, and welcome home. It's been such a joy watching how much this mission has gotten people so excited about space. My question's a little bit deep, so bear with me. When Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell was returning from the moon, he had an experience so profound that when he returned to Earth, he devoted the rest of his life to studying the nature of human consciousness. And it's a theme that all 4 of you touched on to varying degrees at some point during the mission. And so my question is, now that you've been back on Earth for just a few days and had a little bit of time to sit with it, do any of you feel as though you had an experience similar to what Mitchell described, this sense of universal connectedness? And did you experience somehow a shift in consciousness somehow? Thanks.
Yes. Chris, it's a great question. I'll just the only thing I can do is just share one quick story. When I got back on the ship, I'm not really a religious person, but there was just no other avenue for me to explain anything or to experience anything. So I asked for the chaplain on the Navy ship to just come visit us for a minute. And when that man walked in, I'd never met him before in my life, but I saw the cross on his collar, and I broke down in tears. It's very hard to fully grasp what we just went through. And in these short, you just said it's been a week since we've been back, but it's been a week of medical testing, physical testing, doctors, science objectives. We have not had that decompression. We have not had that reflection time. So I'm basing this on what we saw. And when the sun eclipsed behind the moon, I think all 4 of us, I turned to Victor and I said, I don't think humanity has evolved to the point of being able to comprehend what we were looking at right now, because it was otherworldly and it was amazing.
The only thing I would add is that beautiful thing. First of all, thank you for sharing that. That was a really special moment. I was in the bed right across when the chaplain came in, and the only thing I would add is I am a religious person, but everything else is the same. There is something in there, and as we start to process, I'll have to tell you next week, but haven't had a chance to really unpack it all yet.
All right, we'll take 1 more here in the room and then head over to our phone bridge.
Yeah, maybe not as deep, but connected. Keith Garvin with KPRC2 here in Houston. Thank you so much for taking us on your journey, and so glad that you're home. You know, with the technology that we have today and what we can do with videos and pictures and social media, it can still be very hard for one to convey exactly what they're seeing to everyone else. What is the most remarkable, or one of the most remarkable experiences that you all had that just couldn't be fully properly conveyed through pictures and video? And that's for any of you.
I can start. I was going to answer Kristen's question a little bit too, and I think these tie together. I've been trying to find words for it, and I don't really have it yet, but we just saw so many amazing things. And people ask what's the most amazing one, and you can't pick one. There's just so many amazing experiences we had. But overall, where I keep coming back to is what kept grabbing my attention when the lighting was right and we were looking out the window is that I kept seeing this depth to, I guess, the galaxy, for what we were visually observing out there, this depth to the galaxy that I just had never experienced before. And it's not that I could tell which stars were really closer and further, because it has to do with how bright they are, but because of how bright they are and their differences, they look like you can tell where they are in 3D. That was mind-blowing for me. And then you see the same thing with the moon and the Earth. You're viewing them from this new perspective, but this perspective with 3-dimensional depth. And I mean, I've heard Christina talk about this a lot. We're all kind of struck by these things that make us feel small. And that the sense I had was this sense of fragility and feeling small, infinitesimally small. But yet, this very powerful feeling as a human being, like as a group. And that is what, to me, is what I would try to share. I saw it in all these sites over and over again. I kept seeing that same thing and that same feeling. Small and powerless, but yet powerful together.
Beautiful. Okay, we'll head over to our phone bridge. Our next question is from Nell Greenfield with NPR.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Tell me about your sleep. Have you been having any dreams of the moon? And if so, what have the dreams been like?
Take this one. I've got a couple things I can say on that. One, been sleeping great since we got back. We are tired, so I think our bodies were ready to accept any time zone of sleep that we offered it. And what I've noticed, which is completely different from my first flight, and surprisingly so, since my first flight was so long, is every time I've been waking up, or in the first few days, I thought I was floating. 100%. I truly thought I was floating, and I had to convince myself I wasn't. And even after 328 days in space on my previous mission, I never did the thing where you think something will float in front of you. I've done that on this return for some reason. I put a shirt in the air, and it went. It actually surprised me. And so that's been the real thing, which I've welcomed, because space sleep is the best sleep ever. It's so peaceful, it's so comfortable, and to have a little bit of that after our mission was over so quickly has been really special.
Our next question.
I'll just tell a little funny thing, because I think you'll get a kick out of it. I sleep a lot better now because I don't have Reed underneath me kicking me.
Oh, come on!
We should talk about our first night of sleep on the ship, where we were about 8 feet apart in the beds in the med bay, and it felt way too far. That was not okay.
I heard Christina say, hey, can we open up these curtains and pull all the beds together? Because you guys are way too far away.
Way too far away.
Okay, our next question is from Lauren Grush with Bloomberg.
Hi, so good to talk to all of you, and congratulations on a successful mission. Obviously, from our perspective, it's a relatively smooth flight, but there were various moments where sensor readings would indicate an issue. There's also an issue with extra leaking from the valves on the helium pressure system that was brought up a few times. I'm wondering if there were any moments throughout the mission where you felt concerned from a safety standpoint, or did you feel like it was fairly smooth from your perspective?
I might be taking one. Well, I might be a bit more dramatic than some of my crewmates, so usually they do a good job of keeping the boy with a lot of hyperbole grounded. But when you look down at your display and you can see 212,000 miles and the miles are increasing, I mean, that your awareness is heightened the whole time. I feel like it was. I was looking at all four of us. I was looking at myself reflecting as well every day, and I was just looking for signs of agitation or signs of stress or signs of anxiety or tension. In fact, I think one day we were in the med kit and we found some medication for that purpose. And we were like, wow, I just can't even imagine taking that. Like we were really good. We were really, really good and really supportive of each other. But you always know in the back of your head that something could go wrong. And I think that just builds a little bit of anxiety. And you're right, we did have, we had some pressure leaking through our PCA assembly, which I'm sure we'll talk more about in post-flight. We had some vent line issues on the toilet that were a little bit problematic for us on the primary vent line. And then we had a few cautions and warnings that came up from time to time. And those they always get your attention. We had a smoke detector go off on the next to last day. I mean, you want to get somebody's attention really quick? Make the fire alarm go off in your spacecraft when you're still about 80,000 miles from home. And that starts off an automated sequence of shutting down the ventilation and the power system. And that was, it was tense. It wasn't scary, but it was tense for a few minutes until we got things reconfigured. But the thing that we drilled into our heads before we launched is no fast hands. Let's evaluate this machine. Let's see what the machine is telling us. Let's see what Houston is telling us. And then let's come to an integrated decision. But nothing had to happen quick. And this machine, I was talking to our program manager last night on the phone for just a minute, Howard Hugh, and there are always things we need to improve. always. There are ways we need to do better living in space. There's way this machine needs to be improved. But my own personal opinion, they could put the Artemis 3 Orion on the Space Launch System tomorrow and launch it, and the crew would be in great shape. So this vehicle really handled very well.
All right, next up, we are going to head over to the Canadian Space Agency for 2 questions.
Yeah, hi, Sarah Levitt from CBC News. Question for Jeremy. I wanted to ask about if you've had a chance to take out the garbage since your wife was griping about chores while you were away. But I have a more serious question. You spoke in your post-splashdown remarks about gratitude, joy, and love. And I know Reid had said that there hasn't been a lot that has sunk in yet, but I wondered if there were other emotions that have come to you since seeing Earth the way you did, since seeing the moon, being the 4 sets of eyes that have only ever seen the far side of the moon.
I think what I've reflected on, and Reid covered it in his opening remarks, is I've found it really refreshing to find out how people have followed the mission and been creative with the mission, and there's lots of funny stuff online, and that really resonates with me a lot. And it just reinforces something I already knew, but humans are just great people in general. We don't always do great things. We're not always in our integrity, but our default is to be good and to be good to one another. And what we saw once we've gotten back, the little bits, I haven't seen a lot yet, but I've seen a bit. And what I've seen has brought me more joy, but more hope for our future. And I just can't wait to see what we do with it next.
Okay, and we should have one more question from CSA.
Hi, my name is Elise Allard. I'm from Radio-Canada, French CBC in Montreal. I have a question for Jeremy Hansen en français. J'aimerais savoir de quelle façon cette mission-là vous a changé, à la fois psychologiquement, mais aussi physiquement, après tous les tests que vous avez passés. Est-ce que vous avez eu des changements physiques et psychologiques?
Good. Physical and psychological changes from the mission. Pour moi, les changements physiques, ce n'était pas une grande chose, même en arrivant dans l'espace et après ici sur la Terre. Et ça, c'est une bonne chose. J'étais capable de passer la mission et juste faire mon travail. Alors, c'est une bonne chose, ça. À l'autre côté, ça n'a pas vraiment changé le moyen j'ai vu le monde, nos vies, mais ça a renforcé ça beaucoup. J'ai lancé avec le point de vue que la collaboration pour l'humanité, c'est la prochaine chose qu'on doit continuer à travailler dessus. Et en vue la Terre, de le point de vue de la Lune, ça a renforcé cette but, cet objectif pour l'humanité. Alors j'ai un nouveau désir de travailler avec le monde pour créer ça pour nous. C'est vraiment important pour nous. Et aussi, je veux ajouter, maintenant, c'est évident pour moi qu'il faut que nous prendre des grands risques pour arriver à des grands bénéfices. C'est vraiment évident pour moi. Ça vaut la peine. I was just saying, psychologically, really, sort of what I was talking about before is that it hasn't changed my worldview so much as it's reinforced just the need for us to collaborate on this planet. And like Christina said in her remarks when we got back, I mean, we really are a crew, and that really resonates with us. And you just see it. Seeing is believing.
All right, we'll take our next few questions here in the room. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is McKenna Earnhardt, and I'm with Fox 26. My question would be, Victor, when I was watching you as y'all were watching the video of y'all coming back down, and I heard you say, I felt that, or I saw you say that. What were you feeling when you come from deeper in space than we've ever been to then you can see the ocean again? What did you feel? What was your body telling you?
Thank you. Great question. And I'll keep my face quiet more next time. No, the moment, well, first of all of the things. That was a very intense 13 minutes and 36 seconds. that moment was when the drogues released, and then the pilot chutes and the mains came out. In Dragon, I've experienced a similar entry, and in Dragon, the drogue chutes don't release the same way and in the same sequencing. And so I don't remember feeling, back to free fall from having drag or G on the vehicle. I think those actually are still connected to the vehicle as the main chutes come out. On that vehicle, I remember feeling the yo-yo, though, as the parachutes were breathing. I could feel that 30, 20 feet moving up and down. But when the drogues cut away, we went back to free fall, and watching that on the video felt almost the same way it felt in the video, or in the vehicle. I would tell you, I've never been base jumping, I've never been skydiving, but if you dove off a skyscraper backwards, that's what it felt like for 5 seconds. And then the mains, the pilots and the mains came out, and it was glorious.
Okay, we'll take our next question right here. Go ahead.
Alrighty there, just a few moments of the Artemis 2 press conference as those astronauts all reacted as they are now on the ground, as you continuously see people asking questions, whether on the phone, previously recorded videos. You also had CBC, which is Canadian press, answering questions there. That is going to wrap us up for this Thursday. So thank you for joining us. In the meantime here, 1 second here. Thank you for joining us in the meantime. Thank you for watching that piece of that press conference. It's always interesting to hear about the science that's all going into this Artemis 2 mission, what these astronauts are now saying. You heard a lot of them saying, maybe they haven't had all the time that they feel like they have needed to fully react to what they saw in space, which was so incredible. And we were kind of showing you guys some images and video from the landing, and also the images that they took with those cameras that they had up in space of the moon. So incredible journey that they went on, incredible science. We'll see what science all comes out of that. But for now, we're left with beautiful pictures from the moon, but that is going to do it for us on this Thursday. Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on all of our social media pages that have been scrolling there at the bottom of your screen for the last hour. That does it for me. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe with the severe weather. We'll be right back here tomorrow for our 30-minute Friday edition of Brooklyn News Live, catching you up on all the headlines.